Good morning. Good morning, everyone. We want to test out again. Can you hear us okay? We coming through loud and clear? Anyone?
I can hear you.
Thank you very much. Last week we had sound difficulties. This week, our cameras in our boardroom are not able to be used. So we unfortunately will not be on the screen. But thank you to those of you who are. That's very nice of you. But so you'll just get to hear our lovely voices. We'll go old school like we used to with just calling in numbers. Really quick, in the room, we just have NIFA and DED staff. So really quick, I'm just gonna run through. Sarah Dakota, I'm the low income housing tax credit allocation manager at NIFA.
And I'm Pamela Skinner, and I'm the low income housing tax credit assistant allocation manager.
Theodore Stark, and I'm the allocation coordinator. Michelle Grimes, DD, the housing specialist.
And we don't have anyone in person for this meeting other than our teams. So just to give you a quick overview, we had a QAP meeting last Friday, and we'll have two more meetings, one next Wednesday, and then one on Tuesday, June 4th. These are recorded and will be uploaded to the website. So if you're not able to attend all of them, our last one, our marketing person has been out of the office this week, and there's been some delay in getting last week's uploaded, but it will be available early next week at the same time this one is uploaded to our website. Pam will share the agenda here really quickly. What we will do is move through, we got through a section of the agenda. We got through a section of the agenda last week, so we're gonna kind of start in the middle of the agenda and then we'll move back. And we'll keep rotating every focus group. And of course, there'll be an opportunity for you to, at the end, we'll just save some time for you to make some general comments and kind of weigh in on different topics. Again, this is informal, it's a focus group. We are using the information we get from you, the comments, to help us recommend changes to the QAP to the board. So your participation is extremely important and very much appreciated, so thank you. One of the things that I didn't mention last week, but I did want to bring to everyone's attention is that NIFA received we're doing some work on healthcare and housing. So there has been a suggestion. We received some funds through Robert Wood Foundation to help create housing with our healthcare and housing work that we've been doing. So there has been some discussion about possibly adding a set aside in regards to that. I don't have any idea of what that's going to look like. It just has been mentioned. So I don't, to make sure that we can get those funds out. I'm not sure. I don't have a lot of info about that, but I would guess next time we'll have more conversation about it and I'll have some more information to see what that may kind of look like. Otherwise, we're gonna just hop into the topics that we have. Where we left off last time was track record. And one of the things that we have had in the QAP for the last few years is a reminder that implementation of if the applicant or owner has not requested an increase of LIHTC for a previously awarded development within the last 12 months, there'll be additional points eligible for that. So we were going to do it last QAP, but everything with COVID, I think there was still a lot going on and we just didn't feel like it was the right time. But this is at this point in time something that we do plan on implementing this upcoming QAP for the 26-27 QAP. Is there any comments on that? Questions? Our next two topics are kind of tied together. Something we always hear about is amenities and supportive services. We often hear, we want more choices, we want different ideas. And we want you to have an opportunity to be able to share with us ways that you think that we could improve those areas. If there's different options you would like to see added let's start with amenities. Is there anything that you'd like to see changed, removed, added? We'd love to see if there's any feedback on amenities. You can definitely unmute yourself and comment if you'd like.
Sarah, this is Kathy. I think from time to time, we find out that there are amenities that might be available for one project that might not work for another project, and people come up with new ideas along the way. It seems to me that we need to be kind of flexible, and perhaps maybe we have a submission process for considering amenities that don't necessarily fall within where the scoring guidelines are.
So sort of like we do for supportive services, where you have an option to.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion.
Hey, this is Carly with Hoppy. I was just gonna say, NIFA has allowed us to do that in the past. We were able to substitute a pickleball court instead of a basketball hoop. So I do like the idea of making that like an official process to be able to do that for different projects. And our group has been trying to brainstorm some ideas for different amenities that might be eligible for points. And two that we've thought of so far were walk-in closets and like dog park areas, like dog run areas, just something different that might be interesting to try.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and we actually are gonna change the language because there's been other questions about the pickleball court, so we're gonna kind of change that language a little bit. More to be general sports courts and things like that, so you can look at a little bit of a language change on that particular section.
And Sarah, I think that sharing everybody's ideas is a good idea too.
Yeah, definitely.
We can all learn from one another. And I'm guessing that everybody's, it's not going to impact point system or anything, but there's always a better way to do something, or there's always a better fit for one community versus another. So
Yeah. And go ahead, Kathy, sorry.
I just think sharing those ideas is a great option for all of us.
I agree.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sarah, this is Tammy. Hi, everybody. This is Tammy with the compliance department. We do already have a process in place for amenity changes. We have a sheet on our website to give you instructions on how to make those requests.
That's once the development has placed in service.
Yes.
So yeah, Tammy, and thank you, because I was just going to mention that for those of you on the call, if you're unaware, once you get a recommendation, you get this workspace called an engaged workspace, and there's actually a section for you to make change requests, because we do understand that what's envisioned at the time of the application may not be available. Specifically in rural areas, maybe something closes or something's not available. I mean, it could happen anywhere, right? So there is an opportunity for you to make those changes. We just need to approve them and make sure that it doesn't change your scoring, which is really, unfortunately, sometimes what it comes down to. We've got to make sure that what you scored still remains the same. So there is that option. But I agree with Kathy. This forum is definitely a place where we can talk about different options and just try to get those great ideas from everyone.
Sarah, this is Thomas, and I was just going to say, Rob and I have offered like recycling services to one of our projects, and for the life of us, we just can't get folks to recycle. I mean, we've contacted tenants continuously, and it started out great, but boy, it's just hard to get them to do that. So we're looking at what other alternatives can we do that would be useful and impactful.
Yes, yep, that's exactly right. And again, we're open to that. If it's not already on the list, we will have a discussion with you. And as Tammy mentioned, once your project is moved to compliance, so you've got your 8609s basically, then it moves to compliance. They do have a process as well. So thank you, Tammy, for bringing that up. Are there any other suggestions or comments on amenities? Okay, I think we'll move then to supportive services. That's also a hot topic. We've made some substantial changes to supportive services in the last two QAPs. We restructured everything. We lowered the points. We tried to add some options that were, possibly a little bit higher impact and lower cost. We do understand that the developments have, you have to be able to cash flow at the end of the day. So we have tried to make some changes. I think at one point in time, it was that you basically had to have, 3 supportive services. And now, depending on how you choose it, there are some different options where you could, you can do 2 or something like that. So there is some flexibility there. So we would love to hear if you have any new ideas for supportive services. Anything that jumps to your mind? Okay, well, think about it for next time, or send it to us in, you can always email myself, and then I can forward it to the rest of the group, but you can always email us your suggestions too, as you have time to mull over them and think about them a little bit. One of the next area on the agenda is leverage and collaboration. We know this is frustrating. We feel it as well. So I just like to hear general comments on the leverage and collaboration. Things that you see are pitfalls. The board is very much interested in collaboration. They're very much interested in seeing that there's other sources going into a development. So there will be some sort of question. I don't see this going away completely, but there will be some sort of question. We're not saying that what we have in, it's not perfect. We know it needs a lot of work. So whatever you've got to share with us, we'd love to hear. And Kathy, I see you're unmuted.
Yeah, this kind of plays into one of the things that we wanted to raise an issue about. I think that the amount of leverage is too high, because because these projects are expensive to build. So that's one issue. But one of the things that some of us have been doing is adding solar generation to projects, and that brings in some additional money to the budget. But more importantly, it brings down the cost of rents to the households, and that's 30 to 40 year support to the households that are renting. So I think we need to be a bit more flexible about all of that, and find a way, rather than just saying you got to have X percentage of extra leverage in the project in order to qualify. You got to look at the whole big picture and see what you're doing long term for the project.
Yeah, we completely agree. We have been brainstorming because, you know, it comes down to, and we've said this before, that there has to be a clear measurement for the project. So, that at the end, we can look to make sure that the points would have still, you know, that what was said was in the application was done. So we do need some clear measurements, but solar definitely is on our radar, at our last, it's definitely on our radar. It's definitely something we're aware of. We've got it on our list of things just because of all the Inflation Reduction Act funds that are tied to solar. Definitely it's something that we're looking at, and we'll take that into account. The other thing that has come up is one of our board members is very interested in the, you know, how insurance, the cost of insurance, and is interested in some discussion regarding resiliency and, you know, kind of building for resiliency. So again, we don't have anything on that yet, but that is a topic that we're also discussing at this point in time.
Sarah, I work with a large national roofing firm, and I have some numbers for you on some roofing products that the person at the NIFA conference was talking about.
Did it make you cry?
Yeah, it's gonna just knock your socks off. So, I mean, I think we've got to have a serious discussion on that subject alone and how we're going to get at it. But if you're interested, I'll send you those numbers.
Yeah, that would be amazing, because if I'm able to draw pictures, it's very helpful, because if we can say this is how much this is increasing the development, you know, where do you all want new construction, you want more units, but where is making these changes, how is that going to impact, you know, the number of units we can create overall? So I think that's important. So yes, anyone, if you have info like that, please share it. And then we will share it with everybody who works on the QAP, and then yeah, we share all that information. So we'd appreciate that. Any other comments on the leverage and collaboration? And again, if you don't feel like commenting now in public, please feel free to email me and I'll send it to the rest of our team. Areas of high opportunity, we sent out a survey not that long ago. We requested feedback from our board, our partners. So we got quite a bit of feedback, and it was extremely helpful to us. We're really working on the development of the area of high opportunity right now. And it is something that what we've worked on is something we think that will cover the entire state, just not metro areas, because you're all, since metro and non-metro areas are scored in different pools anyway, we feel like we have something that can give us a really good measurement overall. But when we have that finalized, we will be sharing that for comment and discussion. We'll have some meetings about that outside of the QAP before it becomes part of the QAP, if that makes sense. We're going to really, we want to do a lot of outreach on this. We know it's a tricky topic. We've had some people say, well, education's not important to seniors, and then others say, well, what if you've got a 55 and older project and someone has a kid in school? So I mean, there's lots of things that we're working on with that. So this is really just to let you know that we're working on it, and once we publish it, there'll be an opportunity for you to provide feedback. We'll probably have a focus group or something like that before it is introduced as part of the QAP. Right now, we've kind of settled in 4 areas. It will not be any more points than what it currently is. Right now, you can currently get 4 points in areas of high opportunity, and it'll still be 4 points, but instead of having, if you're if you're very high in all the categories, we actually will have 4 categories instead of 3 categories. And there'll be connectivity, and that means what we're looking at when we look at connectivity on our thought process. Again, we don't have the data points finalized yet, so this could shift a little. But when we're looking at for connectivity, we're looking at things like, can you be connected? Do you have access to broadband? Do you have access to transportation? Things like that. And then education, obviously that's pretty self-explanatory. We'd be looking at, there's some different metrics we're looking in the education category. Employment, obviously one of the points of areas of high opportunity is making sure that there's availability of jobs in the area. So, you know, one of the things we're probably gonna look at is unemployment rate, or there's a bunch of different things that we're looking at just to see what jobs are available and what kind of jobs are available. And then housing and health. And that will cover, health will cover things like access to primary care. And then housing, right now, we're looking at a couple different metrics there. A couple of things that we're throwing around are concentration of affordable housing and things like cost burden renters and homeowners. So things like that is what we're looking at right now. So again, there'll be more opportunity on that to discuss, to have comments on. I just really, while we're all here, wanted to give you an update on that. Any questions on that? I mean, I know I didn't give you a lot of details, but any questions before we move back up to the top? Hi, Chris.
Hello. This has been tried in several other states that I've worked in, and it doesn't always, I don't think it's very effective anymore. A lot of these matrices are, I mean, I get it if you're in Massachusetts or Chicago or whatever, but look at the applications that came in this round or the projects that have been approved. I mean, you're throwing, I'm just not comfortable with this, even in the entire state, because what we're doing on all of these categories is completely different than what you guys see when you go to a national meeting. And well, this is a great metrics, and you know, this group from Boston puts these numbers out and it ranks everything. You know, I still think the developers and the partners on some of these things are not getting enough credit for putting projects where they belong, you know, and having enough foresight to figure out, well, it makes sense to put it here and not here. And if we're not putting a housing project in a community, a family project in a community that doesn't have a school in the, you know, within 20 miles. So I think you're going to put undue pressure on developers to go to communities now that only score high in these categories, and it's really irrelevant to rural Nebraska and let alone the whole state. So I understand some of the curiosities on doing this, but trying to apply this that works in one state and bringing it to Nebraska, I think I don't think we're doing the right thing with these points. I think we could try something else.
Thanks, Chris. I do know this is a big push by the board. This is what they want. They want clear metrics of areas of high opportunity. So, but we aren't asking some firm in Boston to give us numbers. That's why we're creating something internally where we have the data, we have control, we can gather the data ourselves. And we're not relying on what someone says in a large city is what we need. And we are taking a different approach to this, but I appreciate your comments and they are noted. And it's definitely something that we will be aware of and that we're watching carefully. Anything else on that before we?
This is Ryan. The only thing I would add too, I mean, I think just kind of keep an eye on, you know, the data and see kind of what it's showing. Because it feels like, you know, obviously if developers can take advantage of these points, and they keep, you know, putting projects in one certain area, it feels like we're concentrating a lot of housing in one, you know, track. And I feel like that's how low income housing gets, the issues, when you show up at a city council meeting and trying to rezone. So when you have a huge concentration of affordable housing in one certain area. So I think that's something that we need to be mindful of moving forward, looking at that, just making sure that, there's not multiple projects getting funded over and over and over in one certain area because they can capitalize on the points. Because I feel like that does a disservice and gives affordable housing, bad rap.
Yep, and Ryan, thank you. That is definitely one of the things that is going to be, that we expect anyway to be in the metrics, is to have points associated with, over concentration of affordable housing, so that it isn't just, so that we avoid that. So we are going to be very aware of that. We anticipate, anything updating every QAP. Again, you'll have more, once we get you the details, you'll have more opportunity to dig into it. But thank you, those comments are very important. Okay. We will kind of go back up to the top of the agenda, and then, and for just a few minutes, we'll kind of, we'll let things, we'll open things up just for general conversation. But what we'll do is we'll try to cover process here really quickly. We did change our process on our application where we did the threshold deficiency review. It was not necessarily a popular move, but it did move the needle in the way that, so far, it's moved the needle in the way that we needed it to. We needed more applications to meet threshold. It was really our goal. It's what we were tasked with doing. And by moving this, we really did have some success in having more applications meet threshold. We've really only gone through one 9% cycle and one bond cycle. We haven't not scored yet the 2025 9%. So I mean, I think we'll have more information after that has occurred. But is there any comments on that process change? Okay. And then another big thing is always application times, our timing of the applications and awards. We really worked hard over the last few QAPs to try to move things so that we're doing a bit of a forward allocation, not a whole year even, just a few months of a forward allocation. So this, for example, this round, we had everything due in May, and then we will recommend at the, help me out, Pam, August board meeting. So it will be, you'll have even a little bit more time. I keep saying the wrong date, so that's why I have to check with Cassandra and PM, but there will be even a little bit more additional time. We just want feedback on how do you feel about that May date for the application and August for the award date. Personally, we're not fans of the timing because May is a really rough month for everyone, but we've gotten the feedback that people feel like that the timing is better. So any feedback on that, we'd love to hear. If you think we should move it back, keep it May, August, what you're thinking. We can make it whatever we want. Okay. I'm gonna assume everyone's fine with that. I don't know if anyone's on who'd like to comment about the bond timing. We don't anticipate any changes with those, mostly because we can't really forward allocate volume cap. So our goal would be to still make recommendations at the first one of the first board meetings of the year, depending on what the board meeting schedule is. Christina Zink, are you online?
Yep, I sure am.
Okay, would you like to kind of break the news about CDBG-DR?
Yes, we are on this round that just closed for the 9% application, but we will not be on the 4%. And then this is our last QAP for the 2019 flooding award, the DR 4420. So due to timing and just the funds that we have, we are nearing the end of those.
Thanks, Christina. We're bummed that you won't be working with us for 26, 27, but we understand and we're glad that those funds are getting committed and out the door for you.
Yes.
So unless there's any questions for Christina about that announcement, we will go ahead and just open it up for general comment. We like to leave some time here at the end just for you to make some general comments. If we don't have any, then we can go back to the agenda, but I'd really like to leave some time open for you to provide feedback and comments of things you think we need to look at closely and discuss. So go ahead and unmute your mic. And if there's a couple of you at the same time, it's fine. We'll let you know which one to speak, but please share your wisdom and ideas with us. Where's Kathy Metzner? Can't believe it.
Okay, I'll talk.
Thanks, Kathy.
A couple of things. I think maybe some further discussion about whether rolling back efficiency points was a good thing or a bad thing might be a good discussion. And because the other thing is because the compliance crew is on here, I kind of wanted to backtrack a little bit to the insurance question. I had a meeting yesterday because, and I'm sure that we're not alone, but we're getting notices that that insurance companies that have always insured low-income housing tax credit programs in the past and housing authority, housing units and everything else under the sun are getting out of that business. And so, about every other month we get a cancellation on an insurance policy and that we have to go out and start looking for other insurance. One of them that occurred recently, I worked with 3 different people who were one of the 3 had access to national exchange services for insurance, and the other 2 were working within different systems. And we were looking at what we had originally underwritten at about $800 a unit for insurance are now we're looking at a minimum of about $1,800 per unit per year. And those are on existing units. And so beyond the question of insurance and how we're going to deal with that for purposes of the applications, somewhere along the line, we got to get serious about how we as a group are going to find coverage that won't bankrupt our projects. So I don't know what, we're reaching out to everybody. Some of this may or may not have to do with extra requirements that syndicators are putting on us, but in general, the insurance industry is in trouble, and what we're going to be able to do in insuring these these projects and still being able to cash flow them is a real serious question, I think. So I just wanted to raise that.
Kathy, I mean, what do you think NIFA's role, what would you like to see NIFA's role in this be? Trying to convene discussions or?
You know, there's always, one would think that there would always be power in numbers when it came to purchasing insurance. And if, you know, we could start to talk about grouping policies or, you know, or using companies that would, you know, more or less help specialize in this kind of housing, you know, and maybe we could bring some purchasing power together. Maybe that's something that NIFA could help us with. I'm hoping that some of the syndicators that are working extensively in the state could help along the way. I don't know what the answer is. Obviously, the discussion on resiliency is important, but even if you go in and I mean, if you take a look at the numbers for putting on the kinds of roofs that your expert at your conference was suggesting, the tax credits are going to disappear a lot faster. So, I mean, I don't know what the answer is with all of this.
So,
But we were told at that meeting, you know, there's going to be a moment in the not too distant future where asphalt roofs are not going to be insurable.
yeah.
So, so yeah, if NIFA could, you know, help bring together a forum of insurers and we as a group could come and discuss our concerns, you know, maybe there's power in numbers. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I'm interested to know, so there are companies that are just getting out of the business altogether of insuring rental projects, specifically LIHTC, or just rental in general? Do you know?
I think rental in general. We had one company that was working, they decided they weren't going to insure anything that had more than 9 buildings in it, in a project. We had one company that's just getting out of the rental business altogether. Another company that won't insure apartment buildings. You name it. And then we're getting pressed from the other side with syndicators who are wanting to expand umbrella liability coverages that we sometimes can get and sometimes can't get for unknown reasons, you know. So, I mean, we're getting pressure from both sides to increase coverages on one side and to not be able to find coverages on the other. And
okay, well, yeah, thank you. That's extremely helpful. Is anyone else running into these issues yet? Or you will be soon, maybe? Okay. Well, we'll definitely get into that. Kathy, what was Kathy's first part of our comment?
first part of the comment was
Efficiency.
the efficiencies, revisiting whether we should be whether the rollback in points for efficiencies was a good or a bad idea.
Yeah, that's actually would be next on the agenda. So it's definitely something that's been brought up. So let's see if anyone has anything else, and if not, then we'll go right back to efficiencies. Does anyone else have any other general topics to cover that you want to make us aware of that you don't see on the agenda? Okay. efficiencies it is. Yes, so we've heard, we've definitely heard from, some people, developers, partners, a variety. Some people were hearing, you know, great, the change was awesome on the efficiencies, lowering the weight of the points in the total application was really important. It was great. And then we've heard on the other side that if we need so many units, we really do need to make efficiency a little bit more important again. So yes, we'd love to have that discussion, and hear what each of you have to say about the efficiencies. But it's definitely been a hot topic. And Kathy, since I know you brought it up, do you want to share your thoughts on it?
Well, my thoughts are that we made a bit of a mistake when we rolled it back as far as we did. I mean, I think we cut the points in half almost.
Yeah.
And if we are good stewards of the monies that we are entrusted with, efficiency should be important to us. So that's a general thought. More specifically, one of the problems that I think that we run into with how those efficiencies are scored is that tax credits per occupant are, and this has always been a conflict when we're talking about smaller units, but tax credits per occupant end up, you know, as everybody knows, it's totally dictated by how many bedrooms you put in a unit, whether you're using those units or not, or whether you're using those bedrooms or not. And so, you know, I've always been wondering if there wasn't a way to look at the efficiencies for tax credits per occupant, you know, really based against what's the average household size for, and what are the, and kind of separating the bedroom size and somehow figuring out how to eliminate that part of it from skewing that particular scoring item. And I think the only way you could do that is to score 1-bedroom units against 1-bedroom units, and 2-bedroom units against 2-bedroom units, and 3-bedroom units against 3-bedroom units. But it definitely does skew the scoring on that particular item, which I think is worth a few more, maybe is worth a few more points than the others. I'm not sure. But those are kind of the thoughts I've been having about the efficiencies.
Thank you. Anyone else? Certainly there's got to be Ryan.
Yeah, so just, you know, I guess if we could go back and kind of look and see if we're really creating less units by the efficiency, that would be good to know. That would help, you know, you guys make your decision on if we're truly creating less units now that it's, you know, half the points. You know, and we got to kind of factor in that obviously a lot has changed in the last years. Costs have gone up. And so that was definitely a factor. But, you know, I think for the efficiency side, I mean, you know, when I'm looking at a project, like I can't build I can't build studios and 1-beds, you know, just unless it's a senior project, 55 and plus, because I can't make it from the efficiency standpoint. To Kathy's point, you know, the light tech per occupant, things get skewed. And so that's a challenge that if we truly want to create units that aren't just senior based, that are, you know, smaller units, studios, 1-beds, it does create some problems because obviously I think if you look back at the data, I think a lot of your family projects are going to be 3 and 4-bedroom units. And then anything that's not a 3 or 4 bedroom unit is typically going to be a senior project, 2 bedrooms. And so, it does kind of drive what the project look like, because that's the only way to get the points to score, so that you might have a chance. So that would be my comment.
Thank you. And yeah, definitely, it is very tricky to, with the drastic change in costs, and just everything that happened in the last 4 years. It's really hard to exactly pinpoint what's causing the, reduction in units. I mean, overall, we have an increase in units, but that's because our bond, program is, really taking off, so. And then you take into account some years we've had return credits from other projects. So it's a lot to look at, and we are looking at that data, Ryan. So thank you. We appreciate that. Anyone else? On efficiencies. Okay. Our next, we'll go to the agenda if there's nothing else. Our next item is natural disaster points. And as you may remember, or some of you may remember, it when DD and NIFA have obviously a joint application. And so when the CDBG-DR funds were made available, we changed our natural disaster section quite significantly, just so that we could make sure that those funds were being deployed and doing the best we could with our partnership to keep with DED and to keep everything balanced. So that section will be changing, since there's it will be more like it was in the past. It will be changing to allow to be more nimble and to allow points for disasters that occur. So but one of the things that we've always looked at in the past, and I know that FEMA has kind of changed how they identify different things. So we just realized that I don't know, in the last couple of weeks, so we're gonna have to go to the drawing board to change our language a little bit. But one of the things that have been a focus in the past is that there has to have been a significant loss of housing in the disaster to be able to qualify for those disaster points. Obviously, that happened in a lot of the communities in the flooding. So we're really trying to balance that out again. And I believe in the past it was maybe 2 points. So we're gonna look at the points again as well. So again, we want to be nimble, so that if in a 2-year period a disaster is declared, something happens like it just did on Arbor Day, that we will be able to a project will be able to get points for those sort of things. So we're going to be very thoughtful about this. Does anybody have any thoughts about how you would envision the disaster points changing with going forward with the QAP now that DR 4420 is coming to an end? Those funds are closing out. For 2 points, 3 points, was that too high? Not high enough? Just want to wait to see what we come up with. Okay. Another thing that we made some significant changes to is with our metro versus non-metro split. We really went into scoring those in separate categories. Before, they were all bunched together, and we did our best to do to even it out. But now it's absolutely split, and then we identify alternates in case credits are returned. It's only happened once that we were able then to move on to another project, but we felt that was really successful, and we were happy about that. Does anybody have any comments or concerns about how we've split out that metro versus non-metro scoring piece? Awesome. I touched on the designated ranked alternates. Again, we've only really had opportunity to use it once, but I believe we will still continue with that. Because it did get us able to move forward with a successful project. I think it was 2 years ago that we were able to do that. So now to our other selection criteria, which is all of the points area. One of the things that the board, the governor, everyone's focused on is home ownership. Obviously, in tax credits, that's not something that we can out and out do with the tax credit program. Doesn't mean it's not allowed under code, but we do have our CROWN program. And we discussed last week about how the scoring on it, because of the limitations, you lose 2 points by choosing, because you lose 2 points with the extended use, because you can't have an extended use agreement if you're gonna eventually sell the home, and then waive a waiver of qualified contract. It's also the same thing, you lose those points. So we were just asking, and again, you can mull this over, but for ways that you think that the CROWN program may be more attractive to developers. I know some people have done a little bit here and there, and some haven't even thought about it. But it's definitely something where we're starting to see those developments come out of the program and be sold to homeowners. So that's exciting. Our compliance team is working on some information going forward to make that whole process a little bit easier. So anything that you can think regarding CROWN, we would love to hear. And if you're not familiar with what CROWN is, it's our credits to own. So the project is completed and is rented for 15 years and then can convert to home ownership. So any comments about that?
This is Ryan again. I think, I've looked at it in the past, and I think, like you said, the big problem with the program, it's not that people wouldn't maybe want to do it, it's just scoring wise, it doesn't work. Because I believe the other points we probably can't get on CROWN is doing 20% at market rate. Is that correct? Or am I thinking wrong on that?
It's challenging, yes.
Yeah, so I think there's just a number of points that really just put it in a hole from the start, and nobody likes paying a lot of fees to lose, so.
Amen.
The CROWN programs it's really tough because you really, in order for them to be really successful, is that you really have to babysit your tenants. First of all, you have to be the selection process for CROWN homes it has to be intensive because in order to have that program be successful, you have to really have tenants that don't have the mindset of a renter, but have the mindset of wanting to become a homeowner. And those people are hard to find in that income category. And it's hard to keep them motivated, and and over a 15-year period, you lose a lot of them and so on and so forth. But on the scoring side too, if you take away, if you change the scoring so that you even the playing level with some of those other categories, at that point, then the efficiencies will dominate on behalf of the CROWN project, and you probably end up going the other direction. So it might be a situation where you have to level it a little bit, going both ways in order to really find out whether you've got a project that equally competes with the non-CROWN projects.
Yeah, we're going to play with some past projects a little bit when we look at that, look at some past scoring to see if we can do some predictions. Again, numbers are so different now than they were a couple years, you know, what we were seeing a couple years ago. So, but yes, that's definitely, thank you. That's excellent comments. Thank you, Kathy and Ryan.
Hey, this is Chris. Is there, to throw another acronym in there, but is there a way that Crown can move into the Crane program?
Well, Crane is already so oversubscribed. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, how that would work. We are just super oversubscribed. I mean, we're looking 2 or 3, in some cases, maybe even almost, we're coming up on 4 years out on credits on the Crane program. So I appreciate that suggestion because we do need to look at all side of things. So we'll make sure to note that, and when we're mulling everything over, add that to our thought process.
And maybe you have to rethink how eligibility for Crane works as well. Sarah, if you're becoming so oversubscribed there.
Yeah, it's something that actually we probably will add to the next agenda, just to talk about it. Just to try to figure it out, because we definitely want those projects to still be able to move forward. But as it is right now, it's just, you know, we've opened up quite a few different options to become Crane eligible. And I think and what we do encourage is every project to try to come in competitively first, because if you transfer in the same calendar year, you can go automatically to, if you're approved for Crane, you can go into Crane without having to pay an additional application fee, except the Crane app. So we are encouraging everyone to try to do that before they come into Crane. So we'll see. I mean, we're definitely interested. So for the next meeting, or if when you're perusing things, if you have an opportunity to look at how you qualify as a Crane project, if you have feedback or comments on that for next time, we'd very much appreciate it. We have some ideas, but we like to hear from you guys. We're out in the field. We definitely don't want to just make generalizations without talking to everyone first. So,
Sarah, I had one more observation about the Crown program. Just that I know the board and a lot of people around the state have the idea that that we really need to be encouraging home ownership, but the younger demographic that isn't necessarily interested in home ownership, and the statistics are pretty clear that home ownership isn't as great an incentive in the housing world as it once was. And I think those of us that are old have a hard time with thinking that way, but I think it really is true. But you know, one of the real hurdles that we run into with our Crown projects is we have 200 people on our waiting list for our Crown homes. And we could have 500 people on our waiting list for Crown homes. But when we actually start going through applicants, those people really aren't looking to do the work to be homeowners. They want to rent a larger space. And so, I mean, that's the kind of the lesson that we've learned over the years with our Crown projects, is that it's really, really hard to find the tenants that have the ambition to become homeowners and are willing to work at it for, you know, long period of time to get to that point where they can buy that home at a reduced rate.
yeah, thank you. That's helpful. And personally, I mean, I agree with you, Kathy. I also have always thought that not everyone wants to be a homeowner. So, data to illustrate that kind of information is going to be important. So we'll, as we work through this, we'll definitely keep everybody's comments in mind. Again, thank you very much for participating. We will pick up next week, next Wednesday, from 10 to 11. Be a similar format. There'll be a basic agenda of topics to go over, but then there'll be a time for you just to tell us, if you want to discuss things, if there's just comments that you want to bring up, specific things. We really need this to, we have ideas of what we'd like to see changed, but we really need your feedback on, the mechanics type of things. So again, we appreciate you taking the time to be here today, and reach out individually. My number's on the website, or my number's on the website, but also email, you can reach out to us. We're always willing to have comments. But again, thank you, and we'll see some of you next week.